Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight I've got a fun little match in the Yamato for you guys. And we're going to be on Shatter. It's going to be an interesting one. I want to point out a few things during the match as usual to show good things and bad things that both I do and my teammates. So hopefully you guys are ready because it's going to be a fun one. Alright? Now, for those of you who already know the deal, punch that like button. For those of you who haven't subscribed yet, why don't you hit that subscribe button, join the family, join the Spartan Army. Now, right off the bat, this Mino goes full broadside in front of the island. Going in front of that island is almost certainly a death sentence for anything, let alone a Mino. Wait for it. Oh, yeah. I don't know what he was thinking, but he was wrong. But that being said, I want you to keep an eye on this Yoshino, because he is going to be a royal pain in my backside for the entire match. We take a shot as we go behind the island, hoping to catch him off guard, but unfortunately we do not manage to catch him off guard. We do hit him with a couple of shells and do respectable amounts of damage though. But our goal here is to try to get our Yamato to the flank. I want to get to a point where I can set up crossfires, right? We talk about this all the time. We've got teammates. I have a teammate who is literally reversing behind the island in the cap, and I have another teammate who is sitting right in front of him. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. I got no words. But we can't worry about that. What we want to do is try to utilize what we have on our side, right? Enemy Lepanto is spotted, and I'm not gonna lie, I was really hoping this Lepanto would put himself in a position to get smashed, but unfortunately the torpedoes get there right as he was considering making his turn. He's gonna go bow into those torps. It looks like he's gonna take a couple, so as he's overturning, we're gonna go ahead and get a shot off, try to get as many shells into that Lepanto as possible. But I waited until we were right behind the island as well, so we were only spotted for a moment, and then we immediately go dark. This is some of the beauties of this new update. A lot of people haven't been talking about it. I've been talking about it. I know Zarky's been talking about it. This new spotting mechanic is huge for players that know what they are doing. For everyone else, it's going to be a gigantic pain in the neck, right? But for players that actually know what they're doing, going unspotted all the time because you utilize, you know, by the way, how nice is that? You gotta love those Yamato-sized gaps in the torpedoes. Am I right? And we barely had to do anything to dodge those. But, anyway, I digress. The spotting mechanic changes. For players that know how to utilize that to their advantage is huge. It is such a huge deal. And I just don't think that it's getting enough credit. Like, I really don't. Now, initially, as a battleship captain, I was skeptical because I was like, you spend a lot of time sitting around with your thumbs up your butt, you know? It's not ideal. Oh my god, you can't be this broadside Musashi. There is no way. There is no way you get away with this. He gets away with it. 5 overpins! Are you kidding me? And of course, there's Yoshino with his high explosive spam. Gonna be a problem. And then, so you can start to see why we're kind of getting into trouble here. Again, Musashi is freaking begging for it. We're going to have to put out the 2 wires, and we're trying to get a shot. Look at that. That's much better looking shot. And right through the rear cheek is what we were looking for, and that's what we get. Down goes the Musashi. What should have happened the first time, but I digress. And of course, the very next salvo from the Yoshino immediately double fire. Unfortunately, because we were trying to dodge potentially the Musashi, I'm putting myself in a crossfire. You know, crossfires work both ways. If you get out on a flank to try to keep everything inside you, set up a crossfire for you and your team. But in doing so, sometimes you overextend, and that is exactly what's happening here. Which means I need to slow down, I need to utilize the island, and I need to try to keep myself in a situation where my teammates can start to move forward and support us. Because as we can see clearly on the map, our entire team is sitting in one location. That's not ideal. We want our teammates to move. And now, I'm not going to lie, I thought I was unspotted long enough that this wasn't going to hit. I was wrong. I only got one more heal. These double fires, these fires from this Yoshino has been the problem. It hasn't been dodging torpedoes. It hasn't been any fights with anything else. One of the weaknesses of the Yamato is that it only gets 2 heals. And they're not particularly amazing heals. But this Yoshino is a problem. Now, I was trying to use the edge of the island. Now, if you're not sure how spotting mechanics work, the reason I'm spotted right now is because the top of my ship, the highest point of my ship, is just above the side of this island. Meaning that the Yoshino and I have direct line of sight on one another. So I couldn't use the island to stay hidden. Now, I am going to have to use my heal here to try to get some health back. This is going to serve 2 purposes. One, it's going to allow my teammates to start to come forward. You'll see that I get in chat, and I'm like, guys, I need you. I can't have you guys just sitting in the base the entire game. I need you guys to move forward, right? Now, my hopes is that these guys will move forward in such a way that they will be able to keep the crossfire that I tried to set up, right? We've denied the enemy this flank. They're turning around. They're trying to get back towards the back of the map. Our left side is holding that side as well as they can. And our side is the only side that's managed to kill anything. In fact, I am the only one, other than one person on the team, that has any kills. So, we have 3 total kills. Now, Holland gets spotted here. I take a shot, and you guys always know I try to shoot any destroyer that gets spotted. We do get a couple of overpins, but unfortunately didn't get quite what we needed out of that. Our Shima ends up dying. There was absolutely no reason for that Shima to go rushing all the way across the map and into their cap. He could have continued to spot for his teammates that were all here. We had the 2 battleships plus me plus the 2 cruisers that were obviously trying to shoot everything. So I have no idea why he decided at that moment he needed to push all the way back to their base and go into their cap. Now here, I kind of get the happy feet a little bit. Knowing that the destroyer is a long ways away, I move forward to try to start working on this Montana. We've got beautiful looking air shot, but unfortunately not the result we were looking for. Now, by pushing out into this, notice the positioning of my battleships. One of them has moved forward, but he's kind of following, and the other one is just sitting back at the back still, after 8 minutes. 8 minutes of the match. He has yet to move from the spawn. Yoshino is giving himself up. Again, I'm going to try to hit that Yoshino. He's been the one guy that's done the most damage to me, but he's also the one guy that's actually being smart. The Montana hasn't shown that he's capable of shooting my superstructure up to this point, so I'm kind of discounting Montana a little bit. However, as the Montana opens up the angle, I'm thinking, okay, there's a chance. Well, he starts to immediately angle against us. The Yoshino shoots his HE, and the problem with the Yoshino's HE is I can't angle against it. There's nothing I can do against that HE. It's going to pin, it's going to do a lot of damage, it's going to set fires. Nothing I can do about that. And he's so far away that he's having an easy time dodging our shells. But we're able to negate most of the damage from this Montana, and at this point, I know that I need to hit towards the back of the ship. Now, he's heading away from me, so at this point, I'm trying to get the shot through the rear cheek of the Montana. Unfortunately, he's barely moving, so my shell ends up hitting the belt armor, which we know on Montana has some of the best belt armor in the game. Period. Okay? It just does. You shoot the belt with AP, you're not going through unless it's flat broadside to you. Now, Yoshino does get a single fire here on me. I'm very low health. At this point, I know the destroyer's on his way back. You can see the torpedoes there. I'm just trying to avoid taking unnecessary amounts of damage. But, again, you trigger that early, and now we've got torpedoes coming in. Fortunately, it is the Holland, so we don't have to, or we didn't take flooding there. Again, I want to get another shot at Yoshino. He's been the one guy that's been the most consistent, so if I can help get rid of him, that'd be huge for our team. He also switched to AP, which is huge for me because I put out that single fire. So he's kind of giving me a chance here. And unfortunately, there's only so much I can do. You can see that the one battleship is now right behind me. The other battleship has finally moved up, but again, kind of moves in right behind. Nobody on those 2 battleships moved up to a crossfire, right? None of them. They just followed me once they left. But here we get a huge hit straight through the back of the Montana. One was for 14 and the other was for 73, so that was like 21,000, right? Somewhere in that neighborhood. But 191,000 damage right now. I am committed to a full broadside. I'm expecting to die from either the Montana, the Destroyer, or the Yoshino. They all get their shots away. I get my shots away. I know I'm dead here. We take the Torp, but we do take out the Montana, leaving us with 201,000 damage and 3 kills. And that leaves our 2 battleships alive. Now, notice that one of their destroyers went into our cap. The Napoli going back to help in this situation, I understand why he's doing it, because you can never trust a teammate to do something, so it's always best to just go for it. The battleships, on the other hand, are being left out to dry against that destroyer. They don't have a counter. And those guys haven't shown that they can really do a whole heck of a lot other than sit in the cap the entire game. And go figure, the moment they decide to leave the cap, that's when it starts getting captured. Shocker. But having the Worcester right here, the Napoli shouldn't have came back. The Worcester is the perfect ship to get rid of a destroyer that's in the cap. It's a radar, high DPM cruiser that has a lot of freaking armor, right? Like, the destroyer is screwed if this Worcester has a brain. So, Napoli probably didn't need to go back, but that's always a gamble. Again, you never quite know whether or not you can trust the person. But when I see somebody who's actually going back to defend a cap, I feel a little bit better, because usually that means that they are aware of what's going on, which puts them in the top half of the players, right? We all know that the player base is pretty inconsistent at best. So when you get a situation where you start seeing people make plays where we have 3 separate ships going back to defend the cap right now, that's impressive. 3 separate people realized that this guy was in the cap and put themselves in a position to counter. Obviously, the Worcester is able to immediately get rid of this destroyer. That destroyer should have seen the Worcester coming, but he didn't. Why? Because he was behind the island. He comes out, Worcester's too close, he can't get away, he dies. That leaves a single destroyer versus everybody. And it's the Holland. Now, Holland is one of those ships that I've always said is not the greatest ship in the world. The torpedoes are lackluster at best, but they just keep coming. And it doesn't matter how bad of a destroyer player you are, if you're able to reload your torpedoes quick enough, you're gonna land some torpedoes, and all it takes is a little bit of RNG on your side, and you get those permanent floods. Permanent floods are devastating, right? Well, this Maine just used his damage control, and there are already more torps on the way. Are you seeing where this is going? This is what I'm talking about. The Holland and, what's the other one? The Tier 7, the Jaeger. Jaeger's another one. Jaeger, the torps don't do a lot of damage. It just sends a lot of them, and has the reload boosters to send more of them. So, what you do is essentially, you rely on the damage over time. Sometimes it's going to bite you in the butt, you don't get the damage over time. But a lot of times, as we all know as battleship captains, it seems like every torpedo causes a flood. When you don't get the flood against you in a battleship, you feel like you just won the lottery. However, this Maine is not paying attention to where the destroyer could be, and doesn't have his guns ready to go, and is about to walk into a full-on broadside of torpedoes. And again, they don't have to do a lot of damage if they get that perma-flood, which they do. And then the Holland simply walks away. He fires his guns because he knows he's probably not likely to see him again, right? So he does get his damage con back just in time to save himself from the flooding kill, but he just walks right into even more torpedoes. And, yep, that's going to do it. So, good news is, despite these guys in the battleships throwing the game, our team manages to salvage the win. So, at the end of the day, a win's a win. But if you're in those battleships, you gotta pay attention to what's going on. You can't spend the entire game in the cap, and then when you finally do come out, you end up putting yourself in a terrible position, right? When they realized that those cruisers were running away, Napoli, I understand Napoli doesn't have the best anti-destroyer weaponry, because it has trouble locating the destroyer, right? It's a big cruiser, it's very detectable, and it doesn't really have any of the tools that you need to counter a destroyer. But when you see your cruiser leaving, you probably should just turn around. There's no reason that you should be continuing to drive towards the threat in that situation. You got the points lead, you've got the advantage, just run away. There's no what's the word I'm looking at? There's no somebody down in the comments leave me the word. My brain is fogged. But 201,000 damage, 3 kills, top of the leaderboard. We did everything we needed to do to win that match, and then some. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. What would you have done different in that if you were those 2 battleships? What would you have done different if you were in my battleship? Did I misplay? Which I already said I misplayed, but what would you do different? And if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.